Hi, welcome to another edition of SANAGE Report. My name is Ed Johnson, and today we're going to check out the backyard of Bill Morgan, otherwise known as the Geritol Gardener, who has transformed his small urban backyard into a amazing vegetable garden which serves him and his wife 12 months out of the year. And he's grown some very unusual varieties and has quite a bit of knowledge in the gardening field. So I've asked him a lot of questions, and so I hope we both learn a lot from this experience. So follow me and we'll go see what Bill is up to today. Hey Bill, how are you?
Good morning, you're Ed Johnson?
That's me, yeah.
Welcome to our garden.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's have a look and see what you've been doing here. You see, this is just a normal lot that people would normally have a lawn here and a badminton set or something. Bill has turned this into quite a collection of vegetables, and let's go have a look and see what he's been doing here. It's August right now, by the way, so it's right in the middle of harvest season, and I think we have raspberries to look at. So let's go see what you...
Wonderful.
Okay, what kind of raspberries do we have here, Bill?
This is a Tulamane red raspberry. It's probably the best raspberry, hardest to grow.
Why is that?
Because of the susceptibility to root rot. It's a fungal disease of the soil that kills the plant.
Can you avoid that by not watering, keeping the ground dry?
Somewhat, but it's probably best to put them in raised beds up at least 1.5 to 2 feet. You could also add a surface drain underneath, which would help take the water away.
And you prune these or cut them down? What do you do?
Well, these are just at the end of their growing season now, so the old canes will come out, and the new canes, which you can see here, the next year's fruit, that will be tied up and be next year's crop. As you can see, they're a huge raspberry, very large, very sweet.
And how, so you've got what, 12 feet here or so?
This is about 16 feet. 16, and it produces enough raspberries for us for winter usage throughout the winter, and for neighbors and people that like raspberries.
Yeah, the advantage here, I guess you can pick them when they're exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't have to, like commercial places have to pick the whole thing at once.
That's right.
And you wind up with some good and some not so good. I know that's the trouble with strawberries when you buy them.
Exactly.
Well, let's see what else you've got here.
Okay, this one here is the fall gold raspberry, and it produces on new wood.
So it hasn't produced yet.
No, as you can see up here, the blossoms are just starting, and it'll produce in September, October. A very nice berry. You can double crop it by leaving it standing after it's fruited, or you can cut it down and it'll fruit next year in the fall.
Are they red or yellow?
They're yellow, gold.
Of course.
Yes. And I have some information up there that I'll give you regarding this berry. It's a very, very good berry.
So this one's easier to grow than this one?
Yes, much. And it's hardy to the prairies for minus 40 degrees.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So what do you do at the end of the season? Do you cut it back?
I cut it back because we have the red raspberries here for the June, July crop. Yes.
Okay. Let's go see what else you've got around there and see some other berries over here.
Okay.
So look at the size of these berries.
Yes, this is called a youngberry. Not too well known, but developed in Louisiana in 1905 by B.M. Young, and it was a blackberry loganberry cross, and it's very
almost ready to go.
Yeah, it's ripe when it just falls in your hand.
Yeah.
Huge, beautiful berry. Lovely taste.
Yeah.
Crossed with a dewberry. Dewberry cross. Loganberry.
And this produces wind to wind. Like I see it's still flowering, so.
Yes, this will produce from mid-June to late July, August, early August.
So it beats the blackberries.
Well, the reason I grow this and the Marionberry is because they don't produce new growth, new plants from rhizomes underground. They produce new growth from tip rooting. So that way you eliminate a lot of your new growth coming up all over your garden.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see some stretching out there, so what do you do with those?
So those are put in the bed and pegged down. That's your next year's growth.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be left on the ground for the winter, and the tip will start new plants.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can give them away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're wound up onto the structure for fruiting season.
Mm-hmm. Now speaking of the structure, you've got this netting here all over, I guess for a good reason.
Yes, keeps the birds out and the unwanted people that want to eat all your berries.
Is that why the shotgun's by the door?
Right. And down further, you'll see the one of the most popular berries here is the Marionberry. This is the Marionberry, one of the most popular, developed in Marion County, Oregon, about 1956. Beautiful berry for cutting, for fruit.
Well, I get to try this one too.
Yes, that's a lovely berry. Very good for cooking, jams, jellies, pies. Excellent. Lovely berry. And it again produces in June, July, and early August.
Now, the frame that you put them on, I noticed is some heavy wire, and maybe you can explain that.
Yes, I use the T-posts, which are available at most of your local stores in the area. And I use also on the top rail is a electrical conduit, half-inch electrical conduit. And then the wires between them are ordinary clothesline wire.
Oh, really?
So,
and you only have 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, maybe,
yes,
something like that.
Yes, about 5 foot. You can put them higher, but then you got to pick higher, so
Yeah.
easier to use it this way. Yeah.
So we have asparagus here, I notice, and I've always had trouble growing asparagus. How do you do it?
Well, it's a difficult one to start. Sometimes the plants aren't too great when you get them. It's just a hit and miss type of thing. But once you get them going, they're pretty hard to kill.
Good to know.
Yes.
Except the crabgrass got after mine.
Yes, that's
I don't know
right.
who's going to win that battle.
But there again, in raised beds are probably the best way to grow them. They seem to really like it and produce well. This is a relatively new bed, so it's not as high as it should be normally. So
yeah, and they take well-drained soil. I know that.
yes,
So, the winter time.
I mix a lot of soil and peat moss and fine gravel, fine sand in there because they like a sandy soil, well drained. So there again, raised beds do a good job of that.
Well, speaking of raised beds, how have you done that? What kind of wood are you using?
Oh yes,
And
raised.
you'll notice too that this is not your rectangle shape, common rectangle shape either. And because I think gardening is more of an art than science, and this proves it here. But
Yes.
it's nice to look at. So tell me about the.
Yes, this I use a full 2-inch rough cedar. I paint it with a latex-based solid color stain, which gives you probably about 2 to 3 years more life on the planks. Generally, with cedar, you're going to get 20 to 30 years anyway, so it's well worth the extra money to buy cedar. And of course, the metal corners are done locally here for me, and they help keep it all together.
So it's not sturdy enough just to drill in and put
No,
it together that way.
not advisable. No, because your soil is going to push it out eventually.
And these are what, 2-year-old plants or older?
These are 2 euros. Yes, yes, yes.
And so you've already picked them, presumably, and now they're
This
putting
is-
on leaves, I guess you'd call that. And you leave them till they die, and then you cut them
Yes.
off. Is that what happens?
Yes, once these are turn brown, and you can cut them off, but you must leave, while you're picking your asparagus, you always leave it, and you can generally wait 3 years with new plants before you start picking. Once they start to get this size, then you just wait and leave these because they have to feed the roots. You don't pick the small ones, you leave these small ones.
And is there a male and a female I have to concern myself with?
I don't know.
Because I heard that some produce berries and some don't, or something like that.
That could very well be.
So some that come up are really fat, so you can eat those.
Yes.
And little skinny ones you should
Leave them, yes.
Okay, got it. So we have some funny-looking onions here. What's the story on these, Bill?
Well, these I gambled and tried an experiment here with Walla Walla onions. I planted them in October, and to see if they would come through the winter and produce in July. But some are okay and some are not, so it's just a gamble.
Well, that's really what gardening's all about, isn't it?
That's
You know,
right.
People think you know everything, but every year is a different challenge.
That's
and,
right,
And
yeah.
you never know what's going to happen. So
And it always pays to keep trying new things.
yeah, it does. Yeah, that's what makes it interesting.
Yes,
Yeah. So and over here, but we've got the successful onion patch. I
that's
guess.
right. That's this year's planting of Walla Walla sweet onions and Kelsey sweet onions, which are beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful things.
They-
Huge.
they weigh pounds. You enter them in the fair at all?
No, I have entered before in other years, but I haven't recently. Yes.
Yeah. And behind us here, I guess, are the peas. And what kind of peas are you growing here?
We grow snap peas only. There's a lot of varieties of them, and I plant them 5 times a year. This is the 3rd planting right here, and this being the 2nd behind me. The 1st is all over, and the 4th planting is down there. I might not get 5 because of the year this was, a short year. So,
Well, we hope for a long fall. Though.
yes. And the peas, the name of the peas are Cascadia and Sugar Lace 2.
And these were sugar snap peas?
Snap peas, yeah, Sugar Snap is another variety,
Okay.
but their Snap is their brand name is what they are.
And let me see if I get this. I don't know if I've got this straight now. Snap peas get big and you eat them.
Eat the whole pod,
The whole pod like that.
yes,
I don't know if you can see this, but
we can find one here for you.
yeah. So you eat the whole pod.
Yes, you take the string out down the center
Okay.
and you eat the whole pod.
Okay. Now,
That way you don't waste any shelling peas, you waste the pod.
yeah, that's a good idea because I've been sitting around shelling these.
Yes.
peas. They taste great, but you'll only do it once.
That's right.
So these are snap peas. So how do they differ from sugar snap peas?
Well, Sugar Snap is the same thing, only it's just a variety, sugar. And
Well-
it grows to about 6 feet high or 7 feet, so it's not advisable unless you have a ladder.
And like peas.
Yes.
Well, I grow these ones that stay flat, and that's when you eat the whole thing. So how are they different from what you're growing?
Well, they're another form of a snap pea, only they're a flat variety. So there's many different varieties, and as opposed to a snow pea, they're very, very close to a snow pea.
So then we got 3 kinds now. Sugar
Yes.
snap, snap, and snow. Now I'm thoroughly confused.
That's right.
Anyway, let's have a look at the tomatoes here.
Yes.
I've never seen so many flowers on a tomato plant. What are
Yes.
you doing here?
This particular tomato is one of my favorites. It's called Ildi, and it produces 50, 60, 70, 80 tomatoes on one little stalk which of course there are multi-stalks on the plant, but they're a salad tomato, a little yellow salad tomato, and extremely sweet. Very good.
ILDI, I-L-D-I, I see.
ILDI. Yep, that's one of the ones that I grow.
Great. Are they late this year?
They are somewhat late, yes, because of the late start in the spring, like everything else. Yes.
So, and I've noticed you've got a different kind of scaffolding here that goes quite high. What's the story up here?
Yes, up here, this being an indeterminate, all of these being indeterminate tomatoes, they keep growing until you cut them. What I'll do is I'll run this along that first level until it's time to not grow anymore, and then cut it off. And then on the top level, when the late blight comes around late September or early September, you cover this over with plastic so as to keep the moisture off.
Yet the air can circulate
Yes.
through the tin.
Yes. That way you get your crop of tomatoes that you would normally lose.
I know. One year I lost them all to blight.
Yes.
Because they get on one plant and they just
It's
travel
the whole
to the
thing.
rest of them.
Yes, the whole thing goes. Yes.
Okay.
So there are many varieties there, and there's, I mainly keep my seeds so that I keep them going. There's a lot you can't buy anymore, like Santa Fe grape. Very good grape tomato.
And keeping your seed, how do you do that?
You just take the tomato and you take the seeds out and let them dry, and then just put them in a container, and they're fine. Yeah, they're good.
Well, the tomato's real juicy, so you open it up and let that dry
Yes, I put it on parchment paper. Just scrape the seeds out.
while they're still wet.
Yes.
And then there's still some gluten or stuff.
Yeah,
stuck
that's
to
right.
it, yeah. So it's a bit of a messy job, but
It's
you
worth
have
it.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you only need 3 or 4 seeds to grow what
Yes.
you're growing here. So.
And in indeterminates, you must always take these suckers off. Most people don't. They forget that. And the indeterminates, you have to take them off. And those should come out. Yeah.
Yeah, where was it? One of these up here, yeah. Yeah, that keeps you busy finding
Yes.
those things. Because they'll shoot out from the bottom as well when you think you're
Exactly.
growing up here.
Yes.
So what's this, Bill?
Well, that's a volunteer dill.
Well, every
I-
garden should have a volunteer, I guess.
Yes, that's right.
So-
Hadn't the heart to cut it down. It's so
Oh.
beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's
Attractive for a lot of bees.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I grow a lot of plants just for the bees. Let them flower. What the heck?
That's correct.
I got the room.
Yes.
You unfortunately don't have the room, so you have to be quite concise about where you plant and what you do with it.
Exactly. Yes.
And so you've got these very dwarfed apple trees here, I guess they are.
Yes.
And so how old are they and how big
These
they?
are 2-year-old plants. This will be the 3rd year. They're producing a few apples, but it's time to start pruning, summer pruning, and then getting them shaped to get up these espaliers done properly. They can give you a lot of apples in a short, small frame of time.
So you're going to espalier. So these ones that stick out, do you cut them off or
You
you tie them in?
shorten them, and then you take the other ones down, and then you pull and tie where you can down, like this one here will come down and go over there, and then up, and so on, all the way through. And there again using the electrical conduit and some irrigation fittings. You can construct that quite easily.
And were these dwarf plants that you bought?
Yes, they're the very dwarf, the very smallest.
Dwarf.
Yes,
So they'll only get
6,
high.
7 feet high. Yes.
And produce how many apples when you get going? Quite a few?
A good, well-taken plant will produce 40 to 50 pounds of apples. And that's a good production on a small tree in a small space.
And you can have early ones and late ones, so
Yes.
you can have apples pretty
Yes.
much 6 months out of the year.
As long as you have your pollination time approximately the same.
Okay. And this netting here is to keep out
Keep out
neighbors again, or?
the birds and the ones that want to eat your fruit.
Okay. You don't have trouble with anything else other than birds? No raccoons, deer, or?
Oh, I have raccoons come
Yeah.
through here, yes. But they don't seem to be too destructive there. They do get destructive if you have corn.
Mm-hmm.
They love corn, but I don't grow
I
corn.
like cherries too.
Cherries, yes.
Okay, let's go and see what else we can find.
Okay.
Okay, there's something hiding under this remay here that I think you can tell us about. And what is the remay for, and what's growing under there?
Well, any of your cole crops, the white butterfly, the cabbage moth will just devastate them unless you cover them and get them protected from it. And as you can see, there's broccoli and cauliflower under here. And it's doing quite nicely without any problem from that.
So this avoids the use of, say, BTK that some people would.
Exactly. I don't like to spray anything on the vegetables or fruit. But that gives you an idea how healthy they can be. And as you can see, their heads are starting to form on the broccoli now.
And it's hot summer weather. This keeps it shaded too. 'Cause
Exactly.
they don't like direct sun, so,
Exactly.
yeah,
It acts as two things because they don't really like real hot weather. They prefer cooler climate. But it works quite well for that.
And have you grown the kind that you can clip off the main head and the side shoots?
Yes.
continue
Yes,
sprouting?
it
Yeah.
continues sprouting, yes.
Yeah.
And you have broccoli clear through to the winter time then. Then I plant my winter crop later. Yes.
Your winter broccoli crop?
Yes.
That for when do you eat that?
Oh, through the winter and early spring, and it's planted in here.
So you pull these out and plant, or
Yes.
you plant them. Maybe you start them and then pull them out later.
Yes.
So you get them going.
And then this is covered with plastic to keep the heat in for the winter.
Oh, I see.
So that it's completely like a little greenhouse in there.
Very good. And beyond that, we have
We have beets, and we have cucumbers, and more broccoli down there, and cauliflower.
these are really nice looking beds, and you manufacture these and put
Yes.
in other people's gardens, don't you?
Yes, yes, they can be purchased.
And do you sell the wood here, the rebar here, and all the pieces to put together?
I don't sell the base wood, slag lumber or anybody like that have that, and but I do sell the tie strips and the rebar frames that are all painted and ready to go, and it just depends on the person's application whether they get a side one against a lean-to or an individual framed one.
And these are all about 3 feet wide.
Yes,
these things.
yes. All my beds are 3 feet. They're much easier to work with than a 4-foot bed. Yes,
Especially as you get older and leaning over.
exactly.
Over here we've got a lot of blueberries. Have a look at
Yes.
what kind of blueberries we've got here.
Yes, I grow an early one called Rika and a late crop called Elliot. And as you can see, it's quite late, and I like it because then it extends your whole season then through.
Oh, they're pretty big, aren't they?
They can get some nice size on that Elliot, yes, yes. Where Rika is quite a bit smaller berry.
Do they take a lot of water? Is that
Yes, much
What?
water, no nitrogen, lots of acid is what they love.
And what do you give them for acid?
Well, peat moss and sawdust will help take away the nitrogen out of the soil. You can buy some compounds that you can add, but I think with natural things it's better to go that way.
Maybe that's why my blueberries haven't done as well. There's too much nitrogen in the soil.
That's right.
Too close to my compost pile.
That's right.
And you got beans growing
Yes,
to the ceiling up here.
yes. These are Probably one of the best beans that I've ever grown. I don't grow any other bean because of you can grow up and get much more productivity out of this than you can of a bunch of bush beans along the ground, taking up a lot of space.
Right.
And this is called Vortex Fillet. It's a French
Vortex fillet?
fillet.
Fillet, oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's a French heritage heirloom,
Wow.
and it gets to be about 2 feet long, and it is a very good bean because once it gets mature and fat and you think it's too late, it's still good and tender. So I save my own seeds for that also.
Yeah. Yeah. I find even though you get a lot of beans on it, they're hard to pick. You got to reach in there and look around. And
Yes, they hide, and of course you need a ladder to get the top ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I see them in the store for $1.50 a pound, and I think I would never even grow those, let alone pick them for that price. But having your own at home
Oh,
fresh
yes.
is worth any amount of money.
And they freeze beautifully. You just cut them and freeze them. And they're beautiful that way. Yeah.
Down here we can see a little bit more of the kind of 3-foot frame for freestanding raised bed down here. So let's see if we can get a shot of that. Okay, so here we have an example of a 3-foot wide freestanding raised bed that Bill has got carrots growing in here.
Yes, yes. There again I plant 5 different crops of carrots. As you can see, this is the first one. It's finishing up. Second is here, third is there, and the fourth will be in here. And fifth if necessary.
And can you grow these 12 months out of the year?
Yes, yes. These, the last crop you plant, you leave it in for the winter, and I always leave the structure on so I can cover it over and keep the heavy rains out of it.
And snow.
And snow. But then you harvest your carrots as you need them, and they're very, very delicious that way.
I notice you have Rime just going up about a foot high. What's the purpose of that?
Yes, the Rime keeps the carrot rust fly from flying in because he flies right near the soil level, so it's not necessary to completely uncover them or enclose them. So if you just put it a foot high, that's all that's necessary, and divide it up in different sections so that he doesn't fly.
And this has to be a sandy soil and I guess fairly deep for the kind of carrot
Yes,
you're growing?
yes, fairly deep soil, very, very sandy, nice loam. Anytime you get a very hard soil, anytime the carrot will contact anything, it'll branch out and go in different
So
directions.
you grow the short variety mostly in these?
It's the Napoli, which is called about an 8 to 9 inch carrot, just the perfect size.
And how deep is the raised bed for an 8 or 9 inch carrot then?
I have about 12, 14 inches in this bed, so that's plenty deep.
And they're all the same variety?
Yes, yes, I've tried quite a few different ones and I found this is the best one. And there again, there's some,
This one's all netted up with a different kind of netting.
yes, this is keep that white butterfly out again.
Okay.
And
It looks like you might be able to get in right there too.
yes,
You never know, they're real sneaky.
they find a way.
Yeah.
And in here there's some cauliflower and some broccoli planted. They'll be coming to mature pretty soon. And some kale.
What kind of kale is that? I've never seen that kind.
That's called the black Tuscan, or dinosaur kale, which is,
Dinosaur kale?
yes, that's what they have nickname
It
for
does
it.
look like a prehistoric plant.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think you have a secret about compost and sand and everything, and how you keep it separated.
Oh, yes,
I'd
yes.
like to show people that.
Sure. Compost bin, let's have a look.
So most people might look at this and say, oh, you've got a boat under there, don't you? You go rowing sometimes when you're in your free time, if you have any.
Yeah.
So what is this here anyway?
Well, every garden should have one of these, and you're constantly working with your soil, so you need lots of different things. So what I do is I call it a compost bin, aggregate bin. And in there's different soils and
Sea soil?
sea soil and ordinary potting soil and bark mulch and 3 types of sand, grades of sand, some pebbles, some rocks, some grain rock, and so on. Sawdust, and it saves you going out every time and running out and getting a yard or so of it, or a bucket or 2 of it when you need it.
Do you buy it by the large bag then?
I buy it by the bulk, yes. I have a small truck and I just bring in what I need, and then the rest, the balance, goes in here.
In the back of a pickup?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's very useful.
Okay. Let's go have a look at the greenhouse and see where everything starts.
Okay.
So your wife is busy growing lots of flowers.
Yes, she does all the flowers, yeah.
So here in the greenhouse, it's just a simple little lean-to greenhouse that you've managed to use the space very well. And this is, I guess, where you grow your transplants.
Yes, this is the starting structure. There's 5 different levels, and using the T5 Sunblaster lights for grow lights, and heat mats for heating, because you start, your onions start in December. You sow them in December. So you have to get the heat on them. The light, once they come up, they need 14 hours of light a day. All your seedlings do.
And this keeps them from getting spindly, this light
Yes.
here, this is very strong light.
Yes,
This fluorescent lights normal fluorescent lights may not be enough.
no. You must keep this down within 2 inches of the top of a seedling. As you can see here, if a seedling was there, you would have to bring this down just above there. So it's adjustable, that you can lower or raise it. And then when they get too high, I just transfer them over to the other side where I got a little more height in my lights.
Oh yeah, and so you're over to fluorescence here after that.
Well, no, that's a Sunblaster also. That's a T8.
Oh, okay.
These are the smallest and the most efficient one, other than that one.
So is this whole place full in the springtime?
Yes, you can't move in here. Yes, it's very, very efficient.
Even more over here.
Yes, there's 1, 2, 3 layers there, or 3 tiers.
It's amazing that you have room to plant all these transplants.
Yes.
And these tomatoes in limbo here?
These tomatoes are ones I'm trying to, I got the seed late for them, and I'm trying to keep them in the greenhouse so that I can find out what kind of tomato they are. I've never known this one before, so I'm trying to see it in order to assess what kind of, if it's worth growing, and so on.
So you'll try the tomato.
Yes, I'll keep them in the greenhouse until they fruit.
One thing we didn't discuss, Bill, is I noticed that everything is just sticky to and clean and no weeds growing anywhere. And I know you probably prepared this for us before we came, but you do have a lot of paving stones here, and that seems to keep you're not walking on any gravel, you're not walking on any dirt. So what was that like to put that in, and how did you do that?
Well, this was a major project. My wife and I hauled all the paving stones and laid them all. And of course underneath them is the landscape fabric, which prevents any weeds from growing, but they still seem to grow in between the paving stones occasionally, so you just pull them out after it rains, so it's quite easy.
So you put sand down and then
Yes, and the
fabric,
paving.
and then Do you put grout in between the?
No, just
Put sand?
just a fine sand. Yes, just swept in, and that keeps them well. And the reason for the paving stones is in the winter time, there's no grass or muck to get into. You can walk out to the compost bin, which is at the back, and back and forth, and fine, and do anything in your garden that you want to do. The other nice thing about paving stones is, and most people don't realize this, and we come across it simply by accident after putting them in, during the evening, after the sun goes down, everything cools off. But the sun being out on those paving stones all day, they heat, and they heat all night, so your garden grows all night, especially in raised beds. So that was a plus.
Yeah, added benefit. The paving stones aren't cheap, so.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's good.
But well worth the investment, I think.
So you, where the raised beds are, did you excavate any dirt to put them in there and add dirt?
No, we left the some of the original soil is under each bed, and it was good soil, but clay base. So you, any time that you go on top of clay base, you should work with your soil and build it, and compost, mushroom manure, lots of organic material, and soils generally will take quite a while. It's taken us 10 years, 12 years to build good soil. And then you add your sand, depending on what you want, how porous you want your soil to be, and so on.
And you had an organic fertilizer too that you used.
Oh yes. I use the organic fertilizer because I find that it's far superior to anything that's chemical. There's a couple produced locally. Integrity Sales have a good one. Borden's Mercantile has another good one. So that's a must. And one application per plant per growing season is all you need with that. And it's very, very good.
That's good, because I usually rely on compost, and perhaps that's not quite enough for most plants.
No, I think compost is good. It depends on what goes into the compost, of course, too. But it won't do everything on its own. You must give it some help.
Do you have some information here on the...
Yes, we talked about the fall gold raspberries earlier, and this is a gentleman, a pamphlet on it that produced it. And yeah.
What is his name?
His name's Elwin Maeder. He's a Quaker from Pennsylvania. And in the back page there, you'll see I've highlighted the area where he's talked about the fall gold raspberry. You could read that if you like.
He crossed a wild berry he found in the Korean mountains, for example, with Taylor red raspberry, later crossing its offspring with the sister of the fall red raspberry. Maeder's complicated breeding program ultimately produced what he calls the sweetest raspberry grown. Fall gold. Bearing from July through late October, fall gold survives minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit, producing its large golden fruit on the ends of new canes. That sounds like the perfect raspberry for here.
It's beautiful. It's a lovely raspberry. And also here is...
you freeze that and eat it all year round.
Yes, we generally eat them. We don't freeze them too much. The red raspberry we freeze. Now, having said that...
is that because they're better fresh, or they don't freeze well?
They don't freeze as well as the red raspberry, I find. So we've gone with, meaning we eat most of those in the autumn, and freeze the Tulamine, the big red raspberry, because it freezes well. And this pamphlet here is a rundown on the production and the breeding programs of Oregon's raspberries and blackberries. Very informative.
this will talk about the Marionberry.
It talks about the Marionberry, the Youngberry, and many, many others that are in there. Youngberry, of course, is your first one in your first page, I believe. Yeah, which you tasted.
Yeah, that was big black.
That Youngberry. Is that in there?
That's
No, it's a Logan.
Youngberry. So there used to be a lot of Loganberries grown here on the peninsula.
Yes,
And
yes.
would the Youngberry have been a better one for them to grow, or?
The Logan was mainly used for jams, jellies, and wines, basically. And as far as a fresh eating berry, it wasn't too popular. More insofar as a breeding program, it became more popular. But
So the Youngberry is a better eating berry.
yes, yes, and it's crossed with a dewberry. And there again, Marionberry is one of the most popular in the Northwest. And on your last page, you'll find the breeding charts of most of your berries.
That reminds me, when I was over on the other side of the water there, I came across a Cascade berry, which was delicious, and I've never seen it on this chart or seen it since. Is there a Youngberry by another name, perhaps?
No, it could be. It could be bred later than this information was given out. I'm not familiar with a Cascade, but I've heard the name, so it's out there somewhere, and it's I don't know its origin.
So if anybody has one, we'd like to hear about it.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's really great. So so how many years has it taken you to get to this point?
We built the home in 1992, and we started on the garden from the east side about 1993, and finished up about 4 or 5 years later in the west side, and that was how long it took to do it, and from there it's just been growing.
So really, we're looking at 4 or 5, 6 years worth of effort right here.
Yes.
So that's not very long to produce what you've done here.
No,
I
no.
know I lived in a house for 10 years before I started seeing results of any kind.
Yes.
So yeah, you've been really successful. So how easy is it that you find other people and get them started to do what you've done or something similar?
Well, I hope that a lot of people take up gardening, because we live in one of the best climates in all of Canada for growing fruits and vegetables, right here. And you can grow all year round. So as far as Superior, and I hope just people that tend to take it up and plant one little bed. That's all they need to start with. Then when they catch on, they'll want to plant more.
I think when they taste something that
Yes.
comes out of the garden, they'll go,
Yes,
I never realized tomatoes taste like this.
exactly.
Because all
Yeah.
through the winter you buy tomatoes that were grown in a greenhouse, and
Yes.
they're tasteless, really.
Yes.
So we're all waiting for our tomatoes this year to harvest. Have you started harvesting some tomatoes?
Oh yes, we've been eating tomatoes here from the patio for about a month now. And behind me you can see them. There's
Those are the determinate types.
these are determinants,
As
yes.
opposed to the indeterminate.
You do not take the center growth out between the leaf and the stem.
And are they always the smaller tomatoes?
Not necessarily, some are larger. This red one here is a medium-sized tomato. It's probably the earliest, along with the gold nugget.
Did you start those from seed in the
Yes.
greenhouse?
Yes,
And
they're
when did you
started.
start the seed?
Oh, we started them in February, March. Yeah. And then graduated them out, keep them warm, and
So you have to, so they're in there and you have to acclimatize them to the outdoors. So how
Yes.
how do you
well, you
do it
harden.
at night or something?
Yes, you harden them off, and the first nights that are cold, you can take them back into the greenhouse. But then, as it gets a little bit better, you can cover them with rime or plastic or something like that, or put them in one of your raised beds at night. Cover them, open it up in the daytime, and then they get hardened off, and then they're ready for planting out in June.
Well, that's great. I think you beat me and my neighbor for early tomatoes.
Yes, yes.
So there's a lot to learn here.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your time and showing us your garden. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I hope other people are as enthusiastic as I am about growing your own vegetables in your own place, because it's a lot of fun and it's fairly very easy, you know? And you can make a fairly good garden out of it. And when you plant your own things and you harvest them and you prepare them in the kitchen, you'll find that not only does it taste good, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than buying it in the store. So,
Exactly.
so I hope you like this little interview, and we hope to do more with similar people who are growing things in the backyard, because I really think that's the future of our food supply, and as it pertains to food security issues. So thanks very much for watching.